There are a lot of teams going to be interested in Mason Rudolph. If the Steelers take too long to make a decision on Russell Wilson, or if Russell Wilson makes too much time to make a decision, then all of a sudden Mason Rudolph may be gone too. So it's a very interesting couple of days here. There's going to be a lot of activity starting tomorrow, and we'll keep you abreast of it. We'll talk about it here tomorrow night at 10:35 as well. But he's not the only one. Going into today, I thought there would be Baker Mayfield in this situation, but he signed a deal today apparently, or at least to agree to it with Tampa Bay to return there. 3 years, $100 million, $50 million guaranteed, and he deserves it. And when you look back, and everything is 2020 when you look backwards, but Cleveland made a huge mistake. They gave up so much draft equity in this situation to get Deshaun Watson and move on from Baker Mayfield. Had they just kept Baker Mayfield, they would have had 3 more number 1 picks and then 3 other picks as well, and they lost all of those, not to mention all the money that they gave Deshaun Watson. So Browns made a mistake there, but we'll see what happens. A lot of people are also tweeting and wondering about Deontay Johnson, who apparently is interested in moving on. Diane Rossini put it out there this week that the Steelers are taking offers for him. I wonder what it would be after seeing Jerry Jeudy get only a 5th and 6th round pick in compensation for a trade Denver to the Cleveland Browns. If that's all he gets, what would Deontay Johnson get? Or would Deontay Johnson be better served just coming in, playing hard, putting up numbers this year, regardless who's the quarterback, and then go into free agency after that if that's what he wants? I would suggest that, but it may not come to that. So we'll see. There's a lot of moving parts here, not to mention the fact that the Steelers still need inside linebacking help, cornerback help, safety help, center help. They need a lot of help, including wide receiver, and a punter too. So there's a lot of work to be done. That's why we're here talking about this topic and others. And the others would be the Penguins. When I come back, I want to hear what you have to say about what direction you think the Penguins should go in this offseason. And I use 2 terms, retool or rebuild. Which would you choose? And if you choose one, tell me how you would go about doing it. They got to get younger. There's no question. They gave up Jake Gensel. They got younger. But what did they actually get in return? And how else can they get younger? They need younger guys to come up and play well. I've been waiting on P.O. Joseph for quite a long time. Guy's got a lot of talent and potential, but it really hasn't manifested itself. And the star players are getting older and older every year, and they're not skating as well. Minus Sidney Crosby, where I thought he's had a really good year. But lately, you can tell that he's frustrated. He hasn't scored in 8 games. Letang and Malkin are not the same players they were 5 years ago, and that's to be expected. How do you move on? How do you change? Let me hear from you at 412-575-2600. Hit me up on Twitter at KDPump. We'll take a break. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're live right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from Trey Wingo, and he talked about it's funny, the draft class of 2021 when it comes to quarterbacks. The quote, vaunted. Everyone thought this was going to be such a big draft class. Look what's happened to it. Number 1, Trevor Williams. First overall pick, he's still there, but he hasn't played to the level that they wanted. Zach Wilson's about to be traded. The Jets don't want him. San Francisco already said goodbye to Trey Lance. They traded him to Dallas. Justin Fields is about to move on from Chicago. Mac Jones traded today. Buyer beware. The sure things are rarely sure. And that is why when you go into this quarterback situation in 2024, the first 3 picks are supposed to be quarterbacks. It's very similar to what that class was. What will they be? Are they going to be as good as you think they are? Nobody really knows. It's a calculated gamble. Even the year the Mitch Trubisky, 2nd overall, Patrick Mahomes went 10th. You think Chicago should have made that move and gone to Mahomes, not Trubisky? And there are others examples as well, which leads us to Kenny Pickett, 20th overall. He's a guy who has talent. He's certainly progressed every year at Pitt. We saw a preseason this year that I think completely fooled a lot of people. We did those games, and he looked outstanding. You thought he'll take that into the regular season, but whatever reason, he went backwards a little bit, and now they're in a situation where they're trying to still get the most out of him, but can they take the chance of relying on that and that only? And what will be their backup situation? It's a developing story. It'll continue to develop as the days go on. As far as the Penguins, Kyle Dubas came into this, and you knew it was kind of a tough situation because he didn't have much wiggle room. Right off the bat, though, he added to what was already the strength of this team, bringing in Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson is a 3-time Norris champion. There's no question that the guy has a lot of talent, but he's the same kind of talent that they already have in Chris Letang. And I know that he's a big name, and they got rid of some contracts because of his acquisition, but he's not been nearly the player I expect him to be. And quite frankly, as these years go by and these players age, you can't expect them to be as good as they once were. So where does that leave them? They got 4 guys signed. Crosby's entering the final year of his contract. So that will be interesting to watch as it goes on. But Malkin, Letang, and Carlson are all long-term guys, as are Rust and Raquel. A lot of them have full no-movement clauses. How do you get out of this jam? How do you get younger? Now, by losing a lot the rest of the way, their draft pick this year could be a good one. But again, they got to hit on that, and whoever it may be, and I'm not sure if this draft is as deep as previous drafts. So if you know some information about this coming draft, let me know at 412-575-2600. In the meantime, let's go out to the lines. We got Rick in Squirrel Hill first up tonight. Hey, Rick, what's up?
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Just a couple of things about the Penguins. I agree with you on a lot of the points. I don't understand why they insist they have to keep the core group together. They could waive their no-trade law, send them to a contender. I mean, Letang's a turnover machine. And then, you know, the Steelers, when Troy Polamalu wasn't the same player, that he retired. They made him retire. I think they have to go to Sullivan. Look, we're going to get you a physical player. We can't have Crosby defending everybody.
Yeah.
I know it cost them the series against the Rangers 2 years ago. They had no one to go after the Ranger players. And the other thing, I think they outshot Boston yesterday, and they had like 40 shots today, but 1 goal. I think you need a big player to screen the goalie. And
on a power play, absolutely you do. I agree with that, Rick. And I think Crosby too many times has been called upon to defend himself. He's the guy who steps up and does something, and when that happens, there should be a response by his teammates. Seldom you see that. But yeah, the problem is they wanted this group together because it's important to continue to fill the building, and they believe that's the way to do it. And they still thought they had a lot of game left. Malkin, you know, up until December was playing very well. All of a sudden, I don't know what's happened to him, but he's lost a gear here, and Letang has just been average. You're right. He turns the puck over too much. Let's go to Brad in Butler. Hey, Brad, how are you?
Real good, Bob. Love the show.
Thank you.
Hey, what I want to talk about, you stole a little bit of my thunder, but did they ever, you know, Mike Sullivan, he's been a great coach. And, you know, I went to my first Penguin game in 1969. I was one of the 2,000 fans that were there. I remember a game where the Penguins beat the Canadians 2-1, and you thought they won a Stanley Cup. So I've been a fan for most of the whole time the Penguins have been in Pittsburgh. But the point is, to me, it doesn't seem like Sullivan has been an emotional enough. He seems to make excuses. He doesn't seem like he gets upset over the problems with the team, and I think it just goes over to the players.
No, I disagree with that. I think I don't think you see it. I think if you're looking for that to manifest itself on the bench, like Tortorella did yesterday, and he got a 2-game suspension today, you're not going to see that from him. You do see him lose his mind every now and then if he's upset with something, but I think he takes it out behind closed doors. That's how he operates, and that's fine as long as you're doing it. But listen, the first goal of the game had nothing to do with Mike Sullivan. It was a terrible turnover, and they allowed a goal. And then some of the other stuff that you saw. Now, this power play, you can actually say it is traceable to coaching. Although then I wonder, are these players listening to it? You know, that's always an issue. How can they be so bad on the power play? And they were the last 3. They've been all season. Again, today 0 for 4, 0 for 5, whatever it was. With all this talent, that just should not happen. So something needs to change. And listen, this, as you said, being a season ticket holder for so long, you've seen a lot of great hockey here. We should be thankful for this run. And sooner or later, runs come to an end. Just ask the Anaheim Ducks when they had a bunch of 35 and 36 years old. Ask Chicago, ask the Kings. A lot of teams go through this, but if you hang on to it too long, then you don't keep things moving forward. And I think looking back, I've said this before, I know I'm not alone, but back in 2018-19, I was talking about Malkin being traded. He could have brought a wealth of stuff to your team at that point. You just move on. That's when you retool. Now they could be facing a rebuild, which is not what they wanted to face. Let's go to Will in McKees Rocks. What's up, Will? How are you?
Hey, how are you tonight, my friend?
Good talking to you, friend.
Hey, it's good to talk to you as well. I was wondering if I can ask you a Penguin question. I was wondering if you can tell me at the end of the season, if the Penguins continue the slide that they're in, if Dubas and the Penguins organization are just going to gut the entire coaching staff, including Sullivan.
I think that decision goes above him. I do. But I think you'll see changes on the coaching staff. I don't think it'll be Mike Sullivan, and unless they change their mind, because they've been pretty steady in their comments that he's an elite coach. He'll be, and he is an elite coach. He's done great things here. But every coach has an expiration date. I will say that in every sport and every time. Some longer than others. He's still a great coach. I think there's a disconnect maybe with the style of play that Mike Sullivan wants to play and the people he has playing it for him. Back when Jim Rutherford was here, a few times he brought in some physical players. Ryan Reeves comes to mind. Ian Cole comes to mind. And I don't know, they didn't play a lot for Mike Sullivan. He didn't necessarily fit the style of play. I still think the Penguins needed, going into this offseason, not Erik Karlsson, but some other form of game-changing defensive forward and defenseman. You know, you got to play different styles, different nights. You can't just play the same style over and over. And you certainly can't play that same style when you're trying to nurse a lead, which is what they've done too many times this year. You have to change the way you play. You have to be willing to change the way against certain opponents. And I don't think they've addressed that, and there's sort of a disconnect there. So we'll see. It's going to be a very busy and I'm sure a very difficult offseason for them. We'll have more coming up here shortly. When I come back, I'll try to squeeze a few more calls in. And we also have the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call 7 nights a week. Don't forget about that right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan.